What's up, everybody? This will be a different episode. I'm still waiting on some dirt bike stuff, so I don't want to have a boring episode for you, but we got a pretty good one coming up. If any of you guys have been following or know the story on this truck, but I'm gonna get it inside and we're gonna see if we can figure out what the heck's going on with it. I've got a pretty good idea and I'm hoping to confirm it. So that's this episode's project. Get some batteries in this hot rod. Well, this truck won't start, so I'm not getting Ficm sync. And last time we messed with it, we were able to mess with the Ficm relay. I think I have a bad connection there. And I was able to get it to run. I actually drove it out here, so now we're gonna push it in and see if I can figure that problem out too. But about to part this turd out if anybody's interested. All right, it's a new day, it's Saturday. I was trying to drive this thing in. I drove it out to where it was parked, but I ended up pushing it in. I'm having an issue with sync on this truck. It's intermittent. And last time it was in, I was messing with the Ficm relay and was able to get it to start. So it's some sort of electrical connection or issue, and I'm hoping it's a ground issue. So what I just did is went through the truck and cleaned all the grounds and built a new ground from the frame to the cab because that one was broke. And I mean, I have a Bucks cable kit on it, had good grounds, but I just cleaned everything and I'm gonna try it again. But not getting sync, it's very frustrating because I'm fighting two problems. For those of you that don't know, I built this engine and basically I've got about 100 miles on the truck and it doesn't run right. And I've tried everything. I've had the cab off a few times. The only thing I haven't done is confirmed mechanical timing. So today's project is hopefully get the sync figured out. And then I'm going to pull the transmission and the rear cover. And I'm going to confirm mechanical timing. And I'm hoping that mechanical timing is out. I know, oh, that sounds crazy. You hope that mechanical timing is out. But at this point, I just want to know what's wrong with the truck. So we got our work cut out for us today. That's what we're going to be doing, so let's get rolling. Well, the grounds obviously didn't fix my syncing issue, so I'm going to do a little bit more diving into that. All my other PIDs look good. You know, I've been through this truck. You know, I've got fuel pressure, I've got oil pressure, I've got high pressure oil pressure. Everything is new. The engine harness is new, Ficm harness is new, the Ficm is new. The batteries are new. I mean, there's nothing on this truck that hasn't been replaced. The only thing stock is the block and the crank. So at this point, I just got to try to diagnose this no sync issue quick. I'd like to hear the truck run again before I go pulling the transmission, but and maybe one tooth off gives me intermittent sync. I don't know. So I'm going to mess with it just a little bit more, and then I'm just going to yoink this transmission out. All right, so I've been messing with the Ficm circuit for quite a while. And I don't know if it was a fluke, but sometimes it starts, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if I have bad camera crank signal coming from my sensors, but I've cleaned all the grounds. I've got good battery cables. I checked the relay circuit and everything's working the way that it should. So something with the logic would be my guess. It's intermittent, either that or the original reason I pulled the truck in is I'm gonna check the timing. So I don't know if being off one tooth would give me intermittent signal and cause a problem with the logic and getting Ficm sync. I've messed with this for about 3 hours now. I'm gonna start pulling the transmission and just try to get something done and hopefully get some answers. Well, just listening to some Supercross qualifying as I'm pulling this transmission, and I got it. It's not super easy being a one-man job with no tranny jack, but I did get it out. The hardest part was probably going back and forth, turning the motor over, and then lining up the torque converter bolts, but it wasn't too bad. I probably got about an hour and a half into this. So I'm going to try to get this transmission out from under here somehow. I might need a hand for that. But then we're going to be removing the flywheel, flex plate, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to try to get this rear cover off and check the timing. So stay tuned. All right. I've got the flex plate off, and then the rear cover came off easily. Now I need to remove this crank adapter, but this crank adapter, that dowel, you can put this on any which way. There's no dowel that holds this, but that dowel cannot move because that's for the flex plate. This is a balanced assembly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bolts out, and I'm going to go in that hole right there, and I'm going to etch the crankshaft itself for mark, so I know how this goes back on. You cannot put this on wrong or your engine will be out of balance. All right, so I got the crank adapter off. This one does have a marked hole for it, which I did not know, but just better to be safe than sorry to mark it. And then I've turned the engine to top dead center, and my cam and crank is lined up and it is vertical, and there is a hole behind the hole on the cam gear right here. This hole, there's a hole directly in the block behind that. So it's very unfortunate that I had to go this far to verify that the timing is correct, but now we will be looking at an electrical issue of some sort. So I'm glad the timing is correct, but also at the same time I'm a little bit not sure what to do next. So we'll get this mess cleaned up. I gotta put the rear cover back on so I don't get any moisture or anything in the rear when it sits outside, and then we're gonna figure out what route we're going next. All right, so today's goal was to figure out if the mechanical timing on the 6-liter was right, and I kind of figured it was, but I've done so many diagnostics tests on this thing that I'm just not sure what's going on anymore. I don't know. I know I'm not incompetent, and the odds that I would have got mechanical timing wrong are slim to none, but I just wanted to confirm at this point. It's been a few years since I've put this build together. And also a little background on why I am testing the mechanical timing, or why I inspected the mechanical timing. That I built this engine and I put it in the truck, and we struggled to get it started. Got it started, backed it out of the shop to button it up to take it for a test drive to get the air out of the high pressure oil system, and it was kind of running a little rough, and I just chalked it up to air in the high pressure oil system, and I shut it off, and then the truck didn't start again. So I brought it home, I got it started, and it ran just fine other than a little lope, like a miss. It has a miss in it. And I put on about 100 miles, and then one day the truck just shut off going down the road. It lost Ficm sync. So I've checked the tone ring, and that seems to be good. It seems to be tight. It seems to be where it needs to be. It does have a little bit of runout, but nothing that I would think would be detrimental to Ficm sync, or to sync, I should say, cam and crank sync. And I've had the I've had the oil pressure system apart, testing, blocking stuff off. All that's good. I build oil pressure. All my PIDs are good. Everything when I'm testing and cranking the engine over are good, except for Ficm sync. And I don't have any Ford scan tool, so I can't actually test sync. So I may or may not have cam and crank sync, but it's intermittent enough that once in a while I can get the truck to start. So that's why I'm inspecting mechanical timing. At this point, it's just frustration, but it has intermittent Ficm sync. So that means I either have an issue with the logic and the processing of the signals from the cam and crank sensor, or maybe something with the cam and crank sensor are bad. But it's new cam and crank sensor, and everything's Ford parts too, by the way, so don't think I'm putting Amazon special parts on this truck. But the cam and crank sensor are new, the engine harness is new, the fuel injection control harness is new, and the Ficm is new. The only thing that's not new is the PCM at this point, and I don't know if I have a corrupt tune and it's not processing the signal right. But at this point, I'm gonna have to put it back together, which I'm probably gonna need a new rear main seal. I don't like how it went together when I put the cover back on. And I'm gonna need new bolts for the crank adapter. They make ones with a bigger shoulder to center it a little bit better. And then I need to put the transmission and everything back in. And I'm gonna have to do some electrical testing and diagnostics. The Ficm circuit is working the way that it should. I can hear the relay when the key is turned on. I have proper voltage in the proper spots. That stuff is working, but whatever processes the signal and triggers the Ficm to sync is intermittent. So it's kind of back to the drawing board, and I'm open to suggestions or open to somebody wanting to help me with testing and what circuits to test. I think next I'm going to test the AC voltage that the crank signal is putting out at the PCM connector. That'll give me a good idea if I'm getting crank signal. But as far as anything after that, it's probably going to be the same with cam signal. And then, yeah, I don't know where to go from there. Maybe corrupt tune or new PCM, but let me know what you think. I have removed all the grounds, including G100 and G101, which are in the driver's side fender well. One's by the power steering reservoir. That's actually the PCM ground. And then the other one is on the firewall, and that is the Ficm ground and a harness ground. And I've taken those all apart. I've removed paint. I've tightened them. And I actually did do a voltage drop test across the ground, and all of that is within spec. So I know I don't have a grounding issue right now. I was kind of hoping it would have been something simple like that, but on to more diagnostics. So probably gonna end up doing another episode on this until we get it figured out. But if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next video. Maybe we'll be doing dirt bike stuff again. Keep rolling.